Hello everyone and welcome. It's been a while since the last Pauper news, but I guess since Gavin from the Pauper format panel made a video about the Pauper format, the Pauper health, where the Pauper is eating. Well, I guess that my comment on their comment video is kind of necessary for this channel. Uh, Also, I haven't played or streamed the Pauper for, I guess, more than 1 month, and I recently started playing and streaming again Pauper just because I needed the qualifier points to participate next week in a Pauper Super Qualifier on Magic Online. And also, I'm truly disappointed by their statement, by the Pauper format panel statement on the format held, because I feel like that they don't really understand what is the point of view of competitive players, because Pauper, like any other format, you can see it in two ways. So the competitive online players way and the for fun local game store user point of view. Because if you play in your local game store, you don't play much Pauper. Probably you just play 1 or 2 times per week, and for that reason you play mostly only one tournament per week, compared to the Magic Online player, which is probably more competitive. I say probably because you are investing money and more money to get only the fun or the ticks and chests back, while the local game store player usually they just play because it's a fan of the Magic, and for that reason you get instead of money you get the chance to get in touch with other people, and you get the experience to have friendships and play a cool board game in real life. While on Magic Online you mostly play just to win, because a lot of people plays especially leagues just to grind and get back the event tickets, so you try to sell them, to sell the event tickets and the chests to get back the monies. And if you do that and if you win a lot, you are also able to get a life, even a life from Magic Online, or you get back some money to pay your bills or to pay the paper magic cards. And in example, I myself, I don't spend any money on Magic Online, and I when I get enough ticks, I sell them to other players or to card order, example, and get back some money. So I was also able 1 or 2 years ago to pay my bills with just the money I got from Magic Online. For that reason, on Magic Online in leagues, right now you mostly face mono red, and whenever you face mono red, the deck seems really good, and there aren't many decks able to have the same power level as Affinity or Burn. And you may try to play a deck that runs just a bunch of good cards against Lorne, but the thing is, you can have a lot of sideboard against those two decks, and you can also try to have a good matchup in game 1 against those two decks, but your cards are much weaker compared to Burn or Affinity cards, and for that reason your efficiency is much lower and your consistency is not near the level of these two Tier 1 decks. And for that reason, I feel like that the Pauper format panel doesn't really understand what is the problem about these decks, and they just look at the metagame data percentage. And if you just look at the metagame, well, there isn't only Burn or Affinity, there's also Dimir Terror and Cowgate, or at least the Pauper performance panel states that Cowgate and Dimir Terror are the third and fourth most played decks, and they are very strong, or at least they say that they are the third and the fourth most powerful deck in the current meta game. And I say that comparing Terror and Cowgate to Affinity and Burn is a huge mistake, because as I already said, I don't think that we should look at the raw percentage of the win rate or the presence of the deck. We just should look at how much powerful those decks are and how they can truly just win against everything else, because even if the opponent has the sideboard 8, they can just have a start so much good that you can't never get in touch with them and you just straight lose. I mean, you can try to play Buggles, in example, because Buggles is truly well positioned against Affinity and Burn, because but Affinity and Burn is truly difficult to interact with a huge Buggle with Armadillo Clock, but as Affinity you can play both Karkan Shaman, Metallic Rebuke and Negate, and of course Chinar's Edict to interact with Buggles, and you can still manage more or less to have a 50-50 win rate or even greater, especially plus the side if you just run a couple of Chinar's Edict, you don't even need Karkan Shaman. Okay, Karkan Shaman is good, but and also some Affinity players say that some Buggles players say that maybe Karkan Shaman is just good against Buggles, and they lose when Affinity land a Karkan Shaman. But as you know, Buggles isn't really consistent. It's really great as a deck in mid game, because you mull down a lot, trying to find enough creatures and especially post side enough answers to your opponent, to the opponent answers, because if you play against a Chinar's deck, you don't want to keep a one creature hand, and you can just lose if you don't find enough mana, if you don't find the colored lands or Therapias Pro or Moongrowth, and you can also die from not finding any relevant auras, and you can also get countered by a Metallic Rebuke or a counterspell, and also running Buggles in a Prismatic Strands meta always felt like a bad choice, because you know, Colgate's runs 4 copies of Prismatic Strands because it's good against Burn. And as Burn, you can just go faster than Buggles. There's no Skullcrack in the format, but I think that having Bot Monasteries with Spirit and 8 Divination spells is much better compared to having Skullcrack in the deck. Yeah, I think I said everything I needed to say. Bot, Burn, and Affinity, they will be very powerful in the format for a while, and unless Wizard prints something that eventually will make some deck that is probably already good even better, I think that we will not see any change to the current metagame. It's cool that we are seeing some new or newish archetypes like Orzhov Ephemerate and Naya Gates, but I think that we can just consider them some way to approach the meta as an anti-meta deck, because Orzhov Ephemerate is a more aggressive Ephemerate deck and can easily win faster compared to there are also strategies thanks to Ephemerate on Goliath Paladin or the Flying Vampire, I don't remember the name. And Naya Gaze is probably just a better Gaze strategies against Born, because you play Ephemerate and Surrogate Keepers, and if you can blink with Ephemerate a couple of times, that Surrogate Keeper, you get back 21 lives, and that's a lot of life. Well, later during the next week I'll upload some replays from my Twitch channel, so you will be able to see how much it's fun to play against Mono Red. I think we said everything about the current state of the format. I don't feel like that the format is better than it was, but you know, most times fun is just what you find fun. So if you enjoy the format, play it. If you don't enjoy the format, don't play it. Easy.